All right, so video number 2 of our Thriving at Work Workstation series. So in the last one, we talked about step 1, which was hips higher than knees. We were getting rid of the old school 90-90 thought process. Now we're on to step 2. So after you've gotten your hips higher than your knees, so remember hips higher than your knees 2 to 4 inches. So hard to see in the camera, but it's got to be knees below the hips, not 90-90. You get your seat height right, that's step 1. Step 2 is to stack the pelvis. Okay, so here's what I mean by stack the pelvis. We can sit down, and believe it or not, here's what happens all the time. When we sit, we shouldn't really sit on our rear end, believe it or not. You should be on your pelvic floor. So if I sit down, and like most people, it hits here on our rear end, we got a lot of weight on our rear end. This tends to, where we're weight bearing through here, that creates a posterior tilted pelvis that brings the head forward and tends to encourage a flexed spine. Now, if I try to sit up, it's quite difficult, okay? So, and I'm only going to do that. I'm only going to have good posture till I either A, get tired, or B, I stop thinking about it, okay? So posture should not be about work. Posture is a good topic, okay? Most people think posture is rigid. Posture is very, very fluid. You should have a base position of being in middle zone, which is what setting workstation up well does for you, okay? But anyway, so stacking the pelvis. So here's what you do. This is what I mean by stacking the pelvis. And look, spine appeared from nowhere. Okay, so it's like blocks. Okay, our spine should have smooth curves. Okay, smooth curves. Nothing should be overly accentuated. Just like we had boxes, you would stack the boxes or bricks on top of each other. You wouldn't stagger them and expect them to be as stable, right? So the spine is the same way. But there is a sitting shelf. We don't sit on our rear. We sit on what should be our sitting shelf. So it's maybe hard to see on the video, but here's a triangle, okay? There's a triangle here, and there's a triangle here. It's like a pyramid, and it's a base. So when we sit, so here's our hips, right? So we want to sit on that pelvic floor, which is right here. So that's what we mean by stack the pelvis. If we stack the pelvis, that creates a nice shelf, and it gives you a foundation to where now these blocks, when we load these blocks, they're nice and stable, and the weight's carried through the thick, strong part of the vertebrae, the vertebral bodies. You don't have to work very hard. So in other words, overly flexed position is buckly. Also, same as an overly extended position, that is also buckly. And also, that's a place where there's more muscle work going on, more stress on our spine, which we don't want. We don't want a whole lot of stress on our body parts. Okay, so let's talk about stacking the pelvis. So once the seat height is right, you stack the pelvis by exaggerating athletic squats, sticking out our rear end so that we're hinging here, so that what should touch first is upper thigh, and then we just dab it down, okay? So there, and then we're on that triangle that we're talking about, and now we have the foundation and the base. This will get us into the foundation into a good spot where we can correct everything else or have good body alignment and not have to pay for it, which is what it's all about. So this is stacking the pelvis, and that moves us towards a more neutral spine, which we're going to talk about in our next series. So seat high, so far we're stacking it up. Seat higher than hips, 2 to 4 inches. Stack the pelvis by how you sit down. Now, incidentally, if you're in a meeting, you can't stand up. You realized it, right? That happens, right? Sometimes we don't feel like standing up. So here's what you do. You put your feet behind your knees. We're going to shift our weight forward. So weight goes into our feet, and then we back off a little bit. Notice that lightens me up off my rear end, and then we back off and sit on our pelvic floor. Nice thing about this is once we stack the pelvis, you really don't have to work very hard to sit up nice and straight. If we tip and roll back, then again, that takes our foundation and everything. The house tends to want to collapse. So it's all about the foundation. So it's about getting the pelvis right and getting yourself in good position. So that's what stacking the pelvis is all about. So in our next video, we're going to talk about neutral spine. Don't miss it, okay? And we're building it and working our way up with Workstation. So how to thrive in an office environment. So we'll see everybody soon. Don't miss the next video. Take care, guys, and keep on thriving. Bye.